everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Okay, right off the bat, let me introduce you to four totally different people. We've got Robert, who's 68, Karen, who's 52, Marcus, 38, and Zoe, she's just 24. So, we're talking about four people from four entirely different decades. They have completely different backgrounds, totally different lifestyles, and vastly different financial realities. But here is the wild part. Every single one of them fell into the exact same financial trap.
Okay, let's dive into this. What is the one financial mistake literally every generation makes? Now, before I drop the name of it, I want to be perfectly clear about something. This trap has absolutely nothing to do with being bad or careless with your money. Actually, most people who fall into it are pretty careful. They budget, they think before they spend. Instead, this trap is way sneakier. It's all about blindly following the unwritten generational rules of what doing well is actually supposed to look like. It's essentially four generations falling headfirst into one trap, just, wearing different clothes depending on the decade. And the reason it's so incredibly dangerous is that from the inside, well, this trap doesn't feel like a mistake at all. It actually feels like responsible progress. It feels like you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And that's exactly why we need to look at how it disguises itself in each generation. Because I promise you, once you see it in someone else's story, you'll finally be able to recognize it in your own life.
We call this the arrival trap. And here is the core definition. It is prioritizing the signal of wealth over actual assets. It's when people prioritize looking arrived over being arrived. Basically, you successfully deliver this signal to the outside world that you've made it, while quietly leaving your actual financial foundation completely unfunded. It's all signal, no Wi-Fi, essentially.
Section 1. Boomers and the Foundation Illusion. Let's meet Robert, age 68.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is Robert's net worth breakdown. Robert bought a beautiful home in the suburbs back in the 80s because, well, a white picket fence was the ultimate signal of the American dream, right? When the bank approved him, he jumped on it. But notice his actual net worth today. See that massive slice? Yeah, that's the house. His property literally quadrupled in value. So on paper, Robert is a wealthy guy. But look at that tiny little slice for retirement savings. You see, his company restructured his pension back in the 90s. So now, at 68 years old, he's left house rich but desperately cash poor for what's probably going to be a 25-year retirement. And selling means leaving the neighborhood he's known for 40 years. The trap wasn't the house itself. The trap was believing the house was the entire plan. He spent decades maintaining the signal, but he severely underfunded the foundation.
Section 2. Gen X and the Stealthy Upgrade. All right, let's shift gears and look at Karen, a 52-year-old marketing professional.
Notice how Karen's lifestyle creep just sort of quietly unfolds here. She watched her parents and thought, we're going to earn more and have more. And to be fair, she did. But with every single promotion, she upgraded. She got a nicer car at 32, she hit six figures at 38 and moved to a bigger house, she added the fancy overseas holiday, and each individual decision made total sense at the time. She earned it, she could afford the monthly payment, but her expenses grew exactly as fast as her rising income. So despite earning way more than her parents ever did, her savings rate stayed almost exactly the same. She delivered the signal of success every single month on direct debit, leaving her math uncomfortably tight just 10 years out from retirement.
Moving on to Section 3, Millennials and the Experiential Pivot. Here's Marcus, who's 38.
If you're a millennial watching this, look, we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. The 2008 financial crisis completely wiped out early career foundations, right? It made traditional milestones like buying houses and getting pensions feel practically untouchable. So culture handed her generation a totally new script. It said, spend on experiences, not things. You can't take money to the grave, and was framed as this highly enlightened approach to money. So Marcus spent his late 20s and early 30s substituting actual asset building with travel, weekend brunch, and just endless convenience subscriptions. Now, the trap wasn't the experiences themselves. The trap was using experiences as a total substitute for building real wealth, and having an entire cultural movement telling you that was actually financial wisdom.
Finally, we have Section 4, Gen Z and the Aesthetic Performance. Let's meet Zoe. She's 24.
And this brilliantly illustrates the fascinating thing about Zoe. She actually grew up on finance content. She already knows what an index fund is at 19. She is successfully putting 50 pounds a month into a stocks and shares account. And honestly, that's a real start, and she should be super proud of it. But look at the other side of the ledger. She's simultaneously spending 200 pounds a month on things whose primary function is just how they look on her aesthetic feed. The perfect tech setup, the trendy Stanley cups, the exact brands that communicate, I have taste and I have arrived. She isn't ignorant about finance, but she's using her money to perform wealth rather than aggressively build it. Though to be totally fair to Zoe, she is still leaps and bounds ahead of where Marcus was at 24.
So, when we step back and look at the whole picture here, the pattern is just undeniable. Boomers bought the house as the ultimate signal, but ended up cash poor. Gen X upgraded the lifestyle but stagnated their savings. Millennials bought the lived experiences but ended up with zero assets. And Gen Z, well, they bought the aesthetic but kept their actual investments really low. None of these people are stupid, not at all. They just wore the specific costume of wealth that their culture handed them.
Section 5. Escaping the trap. This is all about separating the signal from the substance.
To actually get out of this generational cycle, you have to do one incredibly difficult thing. You have to consciously decide to look less wealthy than you actually are. You have to make a hard choice to separate the signal from the substance. Escaping requires delaying the costume. It means driving the older car a little bit longer, staying in the smaller house, maybe skipping that extra trip, and resisting that aesthetic upgrade on your social feed. You take that difference and you put it somewhere it can aggressively compound. You prioritize the substance over the signal.
Let's apply this practically, because the fixes for each generation, well, they aren't complicated math. They just run completely counter to our deepest social instincts. For Robert's generation, definitely keep the house, but aggressively fund that pension. Don't go all in on just one asset. For Karen, pick just one lifestyle upgrade per raise and bank the other half. Let your income growth outpace your lifestyle growth. For Marcus, take one really big trip a year, not 4, and just invest the difference automatically. And for Zoe, post about the actual investing. Build the actual number faster than the look of the number.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is establishing a new unwritten rule for yourself. Step 1, name your generational trap out loud. Step 2, delay the costume of wealth. Step 3, assets first, lifestyle second. You absolutely must prioritize your assets first, every single time. And look, not forever, just until those assets are doing enough heavy lifting to genuinely pay for the lifestyle you want. That is the move. I want to leave you with a provocative question to really sit with today. Which version of the trap are you in right now? Is it the house that holds all your net worth? The lifestyle that creeps up with every pay rise? Maybe the experiences that quietly replaced building equity? Or the aesthetic performance that looks amazing on camera? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And there is absolutely no judgment here, guys, because simply naming your trap is the very first step out of it. And hey, if this explainer hit close to home, share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it. They probably know exactly which generation they belong to. Thanks so much for watching, and remember to keep building that substance.